The grand chandelier above the dining table shimmered as laughter echoed through the house. The scent of aged bourbon and roasted steak filled the air. Cameron Smith swirled the whiskey in his glass, nodding along to one of his business partner's stories. The house was full, friends, colleagues, people he trusted. This was his life. This was his home. His wife, Chloe, moved gracefully across the room, smiling, laughing, playing the perfect host. Wesley, Cameron's best friend since college, leaned in and muttered, "Your wife looks amazing tonight, man. But she's been a little distracted, don't you think?" Cameron frowned slightly. Distracted? Wesley smirked, sipping his beer. "I don't know. She's always on that damn phone. And I saw her step outside a couple of times. Maybe she's just busy," but he let the sentence hang. Cameron followed his gaze. Chloe stood across the room, a wine glass in one hand, her phone in the other. Her eyes flickered down at the screen, and just for a second, she smiled, a private, secret kind of smile. Cameron shook it off. "She's just handling some charity stuff," he said, brushing the comment away. Wesley raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, sure." The conversation shifted, and soon, Cameron found himself laughing along with the rest. But something in his gut fell off now. As the evening continued, Cameron observed Chloe. She was engaged, charming, but there were cracks in her performance. When he spoke to her, she nodded but seemed elsewhere. When he touched her arm, she flinched just slightly, just enough for him to notice. "Everything good?" Cameron finally asked when he caught her alone in the kitchen, rinsing a wine glass. She glanced at him. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" "You seem distant." She sighed, wiping her hands. "I'm just tired, Cameron. It's been a long day. You know how exhausting these parties are." He reached for her waist, pulling her close, but she subtly stepped back. Not enough to be obvious, but enough for him to feel it. That feeling in his gut twisted tighter. Later that night, after the last guest had left, Cameron sat on the edge of the bed, watching Chloe as she scrolled through her phone. "Who are you texting this late?" he asked, keeping his tone light. She didn't look up. "Just Emily. She left early, wasn't feeling well." Cameron nodded, pretending to believe her. "Wesley said something weird tonight," he continued. Chloe finally looked up. "Oh." He said you seemed distracted, like you were somewhere else." Her expression remained calm, unreadable. "Wesley drinks too much. Maybe you shouldn't listen to every little thing he says." Cameron chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Maybe." She set her phone down and crawled into bed, turning her back to him. "I'm exhausted. Good night." Cameron lay beside her, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, but inside his head, thoughts ran wild. That feeling in his gut wouldn't go away. For the first time in his marriage, he wondered if he had something to worry about. Next day, Cameron Smith walked into the kitchen, rubbing his temples. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. He glanced at the clock, 12:47 a.m. Chloe still wasn't home. He pulled out his phone and stared at the last text she had sent hours ago. Dinner ran late. "Heading home soon. Love you." Cameron poured himself a drink. How late could dinner run? He had called twice. No answer. His gut twisted the same way it had at the party when Wesley made that comment. He wanted to believe her. He really did. The sound of the garage door opening snapped him from his thoughts. Chloe stepped inside, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She froze for a second when she saw him at the counter. "Hey," she said, setting her purse down. "What are you doing up?" "Waiting for you," Cameron said, voice calm but firm. "Dinner ran late?" She nodded, kicking off her heels. "Yeah." We lost track of time. Cameron walked over and kissed her cheek. She stiffened slightly. That same feeling again. As he pulled away, a faint scent of cologne lingered. It wasn't hers, and it definitely wasn't his. His jaw clenched. "You smell different." She blinked, then laughed. "Oh, come on." The restaurant was packed. Probably rubbed off from someone passing by. He studied her face. Nothing in her expression wavered. "Right?" he said, stepping back. "You hungry?" She waved a hand. "No, we had dessert. I just want to shower and sleep." She grabbed her phone from the counter and headed upstairs. Cameron watched her go, a sinking feeling settling in his chest. The next morning, Cameron sat at his desk, scanning their credit card statement. A charge caught his eye. $1,475. The Langston Hotel, his stomach tightened. That was not a dinner charge. That was a suite. He grabbed his phone and called Chloe. She picked up on the third ring. "Hey, what's up?" she asked casually. "Just checking in," he said, keeping his voice even. "Hey, quick question. What's this charge at the Langston?" A brief pause. "Oh, that. It was a mistake. The restaurant is inside the hotel. They must have run the card under the wrong tab." Cameron exhaled slowly. "So you didn't book a room?" She laughed. "Of course not, Cameron. I'll call the bank and fix it." He clenched his jaw. "All right." After they hung up, he stared at the charge again. She was lying. Over the next few weeks, things only got worse. Chloe was glued to her phone, texting at odd hours, smiling at the screen. When Cameron asked, she always had an excuse. Work stuff. Emily being dramatic again. "Just memes, Cameron. Relax." And then there were the girls' nights. They became more frequent. She'd leave around 7, come back after midnight, smelling of wine and something unfamiliar. One night, Cameron tested her. "Who was there?" Chloe kicked off her heels. "The usual. Emily, Kate, Sophie." Cameron folded his arms. "Funny. I ran into Kate today at the office. She said she hasn't seen you in weeks." A brief pause, then a smirk. "Kate's memory sucks. She wasn't even trying anymore." Cameron couldn't ignore it. He needed proof. So one evening, when Chloe said she was meeting the girls at La Bella, Cameron followed. He parked across the street, waiting. An hour passed. 2, 3. No sign of her. Then, at 10:42 p.m., he spotted her. Not at La Bella, but across town, stepping out of a black Mercedes in front of the Langston Hotel. Cameron's heart pounded. She was laughing, touching the arm of a tall, well-dressed man. They walked inside together. Cameron gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Chloe wasn't having dinner. She was having an affair. And now, Cameron knew exactly where to start. Cameron sat in his office, the glow from his computer screen flickering against the whiskey glass in his hand. The silence in the room was suffocating. His mind replayed the image of Chloe stepping into the Langston Hotel, her arm brushing against that man's. The laughter, the ease, like she had no care in the world. He needed proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. The next morning, he made a call. "Mr. Smith," a gruff voice answered. "This is Damian Wells, Private Investigations. What can I do for you?" "I need you to follow my wife," Cameron said flatly. A pause. "Surveillance?" "Everything. Photos, videos, timestamps. I want to know who he is, where they meet, what they do." Damian exhaled. "That bad, huh?" Cameron clenched his jaw. "Just do it." Cameron sat across from Damian in a dimly lit bar. A thick manila envelope sat between them. Damian slid it forward. "It's all in there," he said. "This wasn't a one-time thing. It's been going on for months." Cameron's fingers tightened around his glass. "Who is he?" Damian pulled out a glossy photo. A man in a crisp suit, sharp features, a cocky smirk. "Derek Blackwell. Runs a few businesses. Shady reputation. But he's got money." Cameron's stomach twisted. He grabbed the envelope, pulled out a series of pictures. Chloe and Derek at a hotel bar. Chloe getting into his car. Chloe leaning into him, lips brushing against his neck. Then the final nail, a yacht party. Damian flipped his phone toward Cameron. "I took a little video footage." Cameron hit play. Chloe was on the deck of a luxury yacht, sipping champagne, draped over Derek's shoulder, laughing. She looked carefree, radiant, like a woman in love. Cameron's grip on the phone tightened. She had never laughed like that with him in years. Then came the final shot, Chloe kissing Derek, slow and deep, while the guests around them cheered. Something inside Cameron snapped. With a sharp movement, he grabbed his whiskey glass and hurled it against the wall. The shatter echoed through the bar. A few heads turned, but Cameron didn't care. Damian didn't flinch. He just took another sip of his beer. "Figured that'd piss you off." Cameron ran a hand over his face, breathing heavily. "She played me," he muttered. "She fucking played me." Damian nodded. "So, what's the plan?" Cameron's eyes darkened. "I'm not confronting her yet." "No." Cameron smirked coldly. No, she thinks she's winning. Let's see how she feels when I take everything from her first. And just like that, the real game began. Cameron sat at his desk, staring at the stacks of paperwork. His computer screen flickered, the cursor hovering over the transfer request. He had been working on this plan for days, each move calculated, each detail carefully arranged. He couldn't rush it. Chloe had to think she was in control for just a little while longer. He clicked the button. Transfer complete. Her bank account was now frozen. The joint accounts, hers, their business accounts, were shut down, and access to everything they shared was now in his hands. She won't even see it coming, Cameron thought, the corner of his mouth twitching in anticipation. For weeks, he had kept up the act, playing the husband who had no clue. Each time Chloe came home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't hers, or when she left with the same vague excuse about work, Cameron never said a word. He smiled, kissed her, acted as if he was the same man she had married. But he was waiting. Tonight, as she left for another one of her girls' nights, Cameron made the final arrangements. At the same time Chloe was sending a quick text to her friends, Cameron made a call. Is everything in place? He asked. Yes, Mr. Smith. The house is ready to be listed. We got a buyer lined up who is willing to pay top dollar. The voice on the other end replied. Cameron nodded. Good. And Chloe's stuff? We've packed everything up. It'll be moved to Derek Blackwell's address by morning. Cameron took a breath, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. He would no longer sit back and let her control the narrative. Chloe came home that night, as expected, around 1 a.m., looking exhausted but happy. She had that same look, the one she always had when she was lying. She dropped her purse on the table and kicked off her heels, barely acknowledging Cameron as she made her way up the stairs. Long night? Cameron asked, his voice casual, his eyes glued to the TV. She waved her hand, already half-turned toward the stairs. Yeah, we went to that new place downtown. You wouldn't understand. But it was fun. I'm exhausted. Cameron didn't respond immediately. He waited for the sound of her feet on the stairs to fade before standing up and walking to the back of the house. He made a few more calls, this time to the movers. Everything in the house was going to be packed up. The furniture, the personal items, the clothes, everything. It was all being shipped to Derek's place under the guise of an urgent move. Cameron's phone buzzed. It was a message from Damien. Done. Everything's been transferred. She won't see the freeze coming. Cameron smiled, a sense of satisfaction curling in his chest. It was time to set the next part of his plan into motion. The following morning, Cameron was at his desk when Chloe came down to find him. Her face was drawn, eyes puffy from sleep. Hey, I'm sorry about last night, she said, her tone a little too casual. Didn't mean to leave you alone for so long. Cameron glanced up from his paperwork, his expression unreadable. It's fine. Did you have a good time? She nodded, pulling a chair out and sitting across from him. Yeah, it was fun. I'm not sure what's going on with the bank accounts, though. I tried to make a payment for something and got an alert saying I don't have access to our funds anymore. Can you check on that? Cameron looked at her, pretending to search through the paperwork. It should be fine. You might have been locked out of the system temporarily. I'll call the bank later. Okay, thanks, she said, looking at him for a beat too long. I just don't understand what's going on. It's like everything is. She trailed off, shaking her head, and Cameron felt a small jolt of satisfaction. He had her just where he wanted her, off balance, confused, starting to realize she was losing control. Later that day, as Chloe busied herself with her phone, Cameron took a short drive to a nearby office. There, he finalized the sale of their home. It was finalized and signed, with the check already deposited into an account only he could access. He wasn't just taking away her money. He was taking away her life, everything she had built on the lie. The house, the car, the luxury gone. He waited for the perfect moment to show her the consequences. He needed her to feel it, to fully understand what was at stake. The afternoon sun bathed the luxurious yacht in golden light, the calm sea stretching out in all directions. Chloe stood at the railing, her hand resting casually on the metal as the breeze whipped through her hair. Derek was beside her, holding a glass of champagne, his deep voice mixing with the soft music playing in the background. This is what life is about, Chloe, Derek said, swirling his drink. A perfect escape. Just you, me, and the open ocean. Chloe smiled, her gaze drifting across the sparkling water. It felt like everything was falling into place. After weeks of sneaking around, living in secrecy, she had finally found something that felt real. She was free. For the first time in a long time, she could breathe without guilt, without the weight of Cameron's expectations. The man she had married, the life they had built, it all felt like a distant memory now. To us, Derek said, raising his glass. To us, Chloe echoed, clinking her glass against his. She felt a thrill surge through her as she took a sip, the champagne smooth and light. It was the kind of luxury she had always dreamed of, a life with no strings attached, no responsibilities, and no one to answer to. She looked up at Derek, the man who had shown her what freedom felt like. His smile made her pulse quicken. They spent hours on the water, enjoying the sun, talking, laughing, the days slipping by like a dream. Chloe felt like she was finally living the life she deserved. But then, as the yacht began to turn back toward the dock, Chloe reached for her phone to check on some messages. Her credit card notification flashed on the screen. She frowned. Transaction declined. It didn't make sense. She quickly tapped to try the transaction again, a sinking feeling building in her stomach. Transaction declined. Her heart skipped a beat. She had more than enough funds in her account. What the hell was going on? She had been using the card all day. Why was it being declined now? Is something wrong? Derek asked, noticing her shift in demeanor. Chloe glanced up, her fingers gripping the phone. I don't know. My card's not going through. Try again. Derek leaned over, his eyes narrowing. Maybe it's just a glitch. Chloe hesitated but tapped the screen once more. Declined. She could feel the panic beginning to rise in her chest. Something's wrong, she muttered under her breath. She quickly dialed the number on the back of her card, hoping for a quick fix. As it rang, she cast a glance at Derek, who was watching her, his expression unreadable. She could feel his gaze, like it was piercing through her, analyzing every move. The phone rang again, then someone finally picked up. Hi, this is Lisa from customer support. How can I help you today? Hi, yes, my card keeps getting declined, and I'm not sure why. I've been using it all day with no issues. Could you check the status for me? Lisa's voice came through, calm and professional. Let me pull up your account. Oh, I see the issue. Your account has been frozen due to suspicious activity. We've been instructed to block all transactions. Chloe's stomach dropped. Frozen? Suspicious activity? That didn't make any sense. She had just used the card earlier without a problem. What do you mean, suspicious activity? I've been using this card for years. Who would block my account like this? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't release any further details at the moment. You'll need to contact your account holder for further assistance. Her breath caught in her throat. Account holder? Who's that? The line went silent for a moment. Your account has been frozen by the primary account holder. Please contact them directly for more information. Chloe's head spun. She felt a cold knot form in her stomach as the name echoed in her mind. Cameron. Thank you for your help, Chloe said through clenched teeth before hanging up the phone. She turned to Derek, her eyes wide, panic creeping into her voice. Derek, my account is frozen. My card's been blocked. I don't know what's happening. Derek raised an eyebrow. Frozen? Why would your account be frozen? That's strange. Chloe's hand gripped her phone tightly. I have to call Cameron. She hit the dial button with shaking fingers. The phone rang once, then twice, then it clicked. Cameron's voice came through, but it wasn't the calm, familiar tone she was used to. It was different, colder. Hello? Cameron, it's me. Something's wrong. My account's been frozen. I don't know why. What the hell is going on? She tried to keep the panic out of her voice, but it was impossible. Cameron's laughter echoed through the phone, sharp and mocking. Doesn't your lover make enough to cover your vacation bills, Chloe? His voice was smooth, but full of venom. I mean, you've been having such a good time, right? Surely Derek can handle it. Chloe's mouth went dry. Her heart hammered in her chest. Cameron, what are you talking about? She hissed, desperation creeping into her voice. Why are you doing this? What did I do? You don't remember? Cameron's tone dropped lower, sharper. I sent your things to Derek's house. You've been evicted, Chloe. Her breath caught in her throat. What? No, you didn't. Oh, but I did, Cameron continued, his voice now cold and final. You're gone. All your things are gone. You and Derek can start fresh. Hope the yacht has enough room for all your baggage, sweetheart. The blood drained from Chloe's face as the words hit her like a slap. Evicted. Her house was gone. Everything she had worked so hard to build, everything she had taken for granted, was gone. She wasn't just locked out of her account. Cameron had taken it all. And now, she had nothing. You can't do this, she whispered, almost to herself. You can't take everything from me. Too late, Cameron said, his voice stone cold. You made your choice, Chloe. You chose him. Now you get to live with the consequences. Have fun on the yacht. The line went dead. Chloe stood there, her phone dangling in her hand, the reality of the situation crashing down around her. She had everything: luxury, freedom, Derek, but in an instant it was all gone. Derek was watching her, his expression unreadable. Chloe, what happened? Her voice barely escaped her lips. Cameron, he took everything. I have nothing left. Derek stood silently for a moment, processing the gravity of her words. Then, slowly, he stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. Hey, it's okay, he said, though his words felt hollow. We'll figure this out. We'll make it work. But even his reassurance felt empty. Her world had shattered, and there was no going back now. Chloe looked out over the ocean, the waves crashing softly against the hull of the yacht. But all she could feel was the weight of betrayal. Not just from Cameron, but from herself as well. She had pushed him too far. And now, there was nothing left to do but face the truth. She had lost everything, and it was all her fault. Cameron leaned back in his chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand, the burn of it grounding him in the present. The past few months had been an exercise in rebuilding his life, his reputation, his peace of mind. Chloe was gone. Derek was gone. The house, the bank accounts, the power gone. It felt like a clean slate. He was free, or so he thought. Cameron had started dating again. He wasn't looking for anything serious, just something to fill the empty space. His first few dates were casual, dinners, drinks, a few laughs. Nothing too intense. He wanted to enjoy himself. He deserved this, didn't he? A week ago, he met Holly, a vibrant woman, intelligent, funny, and easy to talk to. She didn't ask about his past, didn't pry into his history. That was refreshing. Every time he saw her, the sting of Chloe's betrayal felt just a little bit more distant. He hadn't told Holly everything yet. There was no need to burden her with the details. One evening, they sat at a bar near his apartment, laughing over margaritas. Holly was telling him about her latest promotion at work when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then set it down on the table. Something wrong? Cameron asked, catching her glance. No, just work stuff, she said, a quick smile flashing. You know how it is? Cameron chuckled and took a sip of his drink. For the first time in a long while, he felt normal again. Happy. It was almost as if Chloe's betrayal had faded into the background. But little did he know, that was exactly what she wanted him to think. Meanwhile, Chloe was sitting in a high-rise office with Derek, reviewing the papers in front of her. It had taken her weeks to get everything in place: legal documents, financial statements, and a carefully crafted strategy that would put Cameron right where she wanted him, on the defensive. Derek leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. This is it. We're going to make him pay for everything. He's going to regret crossing us. Chloe's fingers traced the edge of the document. We hit him where it hurts, Derek. We make him lose everything again. Derek chuckled. And this time, we make sure he stays down. The next morning, Cameron woke up to a message from his lawyer, a cryptic one. We need to talk, Eddie. There's something urgent. His heart sank before he even picked up the phone. As he sat down in his office later that day, his lawyer, Megan, explained what had happened. You're being sued, she said bluntly. By Chloe. Cameron blinked, confused. Sued? For what? We're divorced. Not just for the divorce. She's claiming assets, emotional damages, and, Megan hesitated, glancing at the papers on her desk. She's also accusing you of financial fraud. Cameron's mind went blank. What? That's absurd. I haven't done anything wrong. Megan looked grim. She's got her lawyer on this, Cameron. They're aiming for everything, your assets, your company. She wants it all, and they're framing it as a pattern of deceit. Pattern of deceit? Cameron repeated, barely able to comprehend. She's the one who cheated on me. She's the one who lied. Megan gave him a sympathetic look. I know, but you're going to have to prepare yourself for a fight. She's serious about this. And her lawyer's good. Cameron's fists clenched. Chloe was taking him to court? After everything he'd done to let her walk away? This was how she was going to repay him? A few days later, Derek's influence became even more apparent. Cameron was sitting in his office when his phone rang. It was his company's CFO, Tom. Cameron, we've got a problem, Tom said, his voice tense. Someone just bought a controlling stake in the company. It's Derek Blackwell's group. Cameron froze. What? No, that's impossible. How could he? I don't know, but the paperwork's all been filed. He owns more than 50% now. He has control of the board, Cameron. Cameron slammed his hand on the desk. How did he manage this? Tom's voice was tight. He's been circling the company for months. The merger talks, the investments, it was all a setup. He's been playing the long game. I'm sorry, Cameron, but it's over. Blackwell's in charge now. Cameron's head spun. His company, the one thing he had worked so hard to build, was slipping through his fingers. Derek had bought him out, and now he was the one in control. Later that week, Cameron found himself in a conference room, surrounded by lawyers, financial advisors, and public relations experts. It was all part of the damage control. Your reputation is taking a hit, Cameron, the PR specialist said, adjusting his glasses. There are rumors circulating about you, about your company's financial status, about your personal life. Chloe and Derek have already started spreading whispers. Cameron shook his head, trying to keep his cool. I don't care about the rumors. I care about my company, and I care about the legal mess Chloe's dragging me into. We need to fight back. The PR guy leaned forward. It's not just that, though. They're calling you a fraud, a man who used his marriage and company for personal gain. There's a smear campaign in full swing. Chloe is playing the victim, and Derek's been behind the scenes making sure the story gets out. Cameron's frustration reached a boiling point. This is unbelievable. She has everything. She's won. And now she's going to ruin me. The lawyer sitting across from him cleared his throat. Cameron, the longer we delay the legal proceedings, the worse this gets. We need to act fast. There's a real chance you'll lose more than just your reputation. It wasn't long before Cameron received a call from his old friend, Wesley. Man, I don't know if you've seen the news, but your company's getting crushed. People are saying Derek's the new kingpin. You're nowhere to be found. Cameron rubbed his temples. I know. I'm getting hammered. But there's nothing I can do. Chloe and Derek have already won. Wesley let out a long breath. You're not getting it, bro. This isn't just about your company. It's about your name. People are going to remember how you let them walk all over you. You've got to stand up for yourself, or you'll lose everything. Cameron wanted to scream. He had tried. He had played by the rules, but now, every move he made felt like it was just playing into their hands. As the weeks went by, Chloe's plan unfolded. She played her role as the wronged woman to perfection, manipulating public perception with Derek's help. She was the victim of a heartless, manipulative husband who had taken everything from her, and now she was reclaiming it all. Her lawsuit grew stronger, her claims more convincing. She and Derek had worked tirelessly to undermine Cameron, and their plan was succeeding. Derek was getting richer by the day, his influence spreading into every corner of Cameron's life. In the end, Cameron realized too late that the real battle hadn't been won with a single victory. It was the small, quiet manipulations that had turned his world upside down. Chloe had come back in a way he never expected, and now it was too late to stop her. And all he could do was watch as everything he had built crumbled to dust. 2 years had passed, and Cameron Smith barely recognized the man staring back at him in the mirror. The man in the reflection looked older, worn down by the battle he'd lost, by the life he'd once thought was in his control. His once impressive office was now a cluttered, dimly lit, rundown apartment, an unfortunate, fitting symbol of his fall from grace. Cameron sat slouched on a battered couch, a glass of whiskey in hand, the burn of it nothing more than a dull sensation in the pit of his stomach. He didn't feel the warmth anymore. His liver had grown accustomed to the constant poison. And his mind? Well, His mind had long since turned numb to the endless cycle of self-pity, anger, and regret. He took another drink, letting the bitter liquid coat his throat, as if trying to wash away the years of mistakes. He flipped on the TV. There was nothing else to do tonight. Just watch the world continue to spin while he sat still, stuck in his own misery. The screen flickered on, revealing the latest headline. The new power couple, Derek Blackwell and Chloe Smith, dominate the business world. Cameron froze. His heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but watch as the image of Chloe flashed across the screen. Her smile as flawless as ever, standing beside Derek on yet another yacht, the glint of success shining in their eyes. They were the perfect pair, better, more powerful than ever. They were celebrating their newest venture, an expansion of Derek's company, which was now worth billions. Chloe was by his side, looking radiant in a white dress, her arm draped around Derek's waist as they laughed under the sun. The camera zoomed in on them, capturing their carefree joy, their lavish life, a life that had once been his. The life he had built, the life he had lost. Cameron stared at the screen, the images burning into his mind. He thought he had won. He thought he had taken it all from her, evicted her, ruined her relationship with Derek, destroyed her freedom. But here she was, standing tall with Derek, the man who had stolen her from him, in a life even more extravagant than before. And he? He was nothing but a broken man sitting in a crumbling apartment, his fortune lost, his reputation destroyed, his name a shadow. It didn't make sense. How had they pulled this off? How had Chloe and Derek come out on top, while he was left in the gutter? His thoughts were interrupted when his phone buzzed on the table. He reached over lazily, glancing at the screen. The name that popped up made his stomach tighten. Chloe. He almost didn't want to answer. He couldn't bring himself to face her, not after everything that had happened. But curiosity got the better of him, and he unlocked his phone. There was a single message from her. "Still think you won, darling?" Cameron's finger hovered over the screen, his mind racing. He could almost hear her voice in his head, the sarcastic, mocking tone she'd use as she sent this. She knew exactly what she was doing. She always had. He read the message again, the sting of it hitting harder than it should have. He should have known. He should have anticipated it. Chloe had never been the type to stay down for long. She was ruthless, calculating, always 3 steps ahead. And now, she and Derek had won. They had everything, success, power, wealth, and she was rubbing his face in it. "Still think you won, darling?" The words echoed in his mind, as if she were speaking them aloud in the quiet of his apartment. He clenched his fists around the phone, but he didn't throw it. He couldn't even muster the energy to get angry anymore. Instead, Cameron set the phone down slowly on the table, staring at the screen. He had been so focused on his revenge, on making them pay, that he hadn't seen what was really happening. Derek and Chloe had played the long game, manipulating him at every turn. They had carefully orchestrated his downfall, feeding him just enough lies and half-truths to keep him chasing ghosts. All while they built an empire together, their bond stronger than ever. And now, they were untouchable. They were the ones who had emerged victorious, while Cameron was left in ruins. His hand shook as he took another sip of whiskey, the liquid barely registering in his mouth. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the manipulation, the revenge, finally hit him. He had been so sure of himself, so confident that he could outsmart them both. But Chloe had outsmarted him in the end. And Derek? Derek had been the perfect partner, the perfect foil to Cameron's anger and pride. Chloe had won. Cameron leaned back in the chair, staring at the empty glass in his hand. The tears didn't come. They hadn't in months. Instead, there was just an overwhelming numbness, a hollow emptiness that settled deep in his chest. The life he had once dreamed of, the family, the wealth, the power, all of it was gone. And Chloe? She was living the life he thought they'd have. She and Derek were out there, basking in the success of everything they'd built together. They had made him the villain in their story. He was the bad guy, the one who had tried to destroy them. But in the end, he was the one who had lost it all. And they were the ones laughing, living their dream. The sound of the yacht's celebration blared from the TV, with a reporter interviewing the two of them. Chloe and Derek stood together, laughing as if they had no care in the world. The camera panned out, showing the sun setting behind them. It was the picture-perfect ending to their story. A text message appeared again on Cameron's phone. Chloe's name blinked back at him. He didn't need to open it to know what it said. She was taunting him, just as she had always done. He didn't have to look, but for some reason he did. The message read, "I hope you're enjoying the view from the bottom, darling. We always knew you weren't strong enough to beat us." The final blow. He had lost, and she had delivered the last punch with a perfect, biting message. Cameron stared at the screen, a bitter laugh escaping him, but it didn't feel like victory. It was a hollow sound, almost as if the world had already swallowed him whole. He couldn't keep playing anymore. There was nothing left to fight for. Chloe and Derek had succeeded, and he had nothing left. He tossed the phone aside, the screen lighting up with the cruel reminder of his defeat. As he sat in the silence of his apartment, he realized one painful truth. He had been outplayed in the game of betrayal. There would be no comeback, no redemption. The last laugh had already been claimed. The screen on the TV flickered, then faded to black. Chloe and Derek had won.